Hello, hello, and welcome to this month's SugarCRM user group. I am Deneen, the marketing manager, and today we are going to be talking about utilizing your dashboards and reports in Sugar. Justin and Megan have a wonderful presentation planned, so I will briefly reintroduce them to you. Megan, obviously our Sugar trainer and business analyst, and Justin, our Sugar practice manager. Hello to everybody out there. I'm going to hand the floor over to them now. Take it away, guys.
All right, great. Thanks, Deneen. So as Deneen said, we're going to be talking about reports and dashboards today. So what we're going to do is look first at how you can use filters, which technically wasn't in the name of the event, but is a very important, relevant topic when we start talking about reports and dashboards. And then we'll dive into reports. We'll talk about how to set up and share some dashboards. And then, as always, we'll wrap up by talking about some new releases and upcoming events that we've got scheduled.
Great, thank you, Megan. The first thing we're going to look at is using filters. Filters are how you search a module's list view. Now, filters are relatively new. They are used on any sidecar module, and if you'll recall, sidecar is the newer layout with the intelligence panel on the right side versus the very, very old layout that projects and maybe contracts still have. Any user can easily create and save their own filters. Unfortunately, we're not currently able to share those filters with other users yet. Hopefully that's on the roadmap. What the benefits of filters are that they allow you to perform actions against the results of your search. So you can favorite records, email them, add to target list, mass update, recalculate values, merge, delete, and export. We also have inline editing available as well as previewing. So filters are quick and easy, but still quite powerful. So let's take a look at creating and using filters. Here we are at the account list view. Filters are created up here in the filter section. Now obviously
looks like you're still buffering, Justin. Give it a second.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, now it looks like we can see the account list view. Filters are done up here at the upper left corner. If I click on this drop down, I can see all of the existing filters. There are a bunch of system filters available here, 5 of those: recently viewed, recently created, my favorites, my accounts, and all accounts. Below this kind of darker line, above that darker line are custom filters I've created as a user and saved for later. The easiest filter is obviously just to type in a name here. If I type in tech, it's going to find technology advisors. I can also do things like use a % at the beginning to search within a record and find anything with ADV in the name. Obviously, I can create more complex filters by clicking the Create button here. We have our drop-down of all of the fields that are available for me to filter on. The list of fields that are available here can be modified by your administrator. But these fields do have to come from the module you're currently on, which is one of the limitations. I can't, for example, search for all accounts that have an open opportunity. And the filtering abilities on each of these fields will change depending on the field type. If I click on name here, which is a text field, I can either do exactly matches or starts with. If I scroll down and find something like industry, I can do is any of, is any, not any of, is empty, is not empty. So if I do is any of, this is a drop down, so it's letting me choose multiple items here. I can, of course, add some new filters, and it's going to AND all of these filters together. So I could potentially choose a specific industry and then choose a team of users. In order to find specific records. And I can save that by giving it a name. And saving it. And even within here, I can, of course, search by name within my filter. So I can get an extra level there. And again, I mentioned some of the benefits of being able to search here. I can multi-select records. I can favorite records. I can preview a record. Here we have hint installed, so it's showing us information about this account. I can inline edit. Go ahead and fix the punctuation in the account name here. And I can, of course, do any of my mass actions like emailing, mass updating, adding to a target list, merging, deleting, or exporting. I did want to take a quick look at exporting here because it's different how this functions versus reports. If I open this export, it's going to pull up just the two records I had filtered for, but it's pulling out every single field on that module. You can see it pulled out all of the fields on the account module. So that's a lot of data I may not need, and reports are a little cleaner when you want to export those. And I can, of course, jump around to my different filters here.
Can I hop in with a couple of things people often ask me about filters?
Sure, go ahead.
One thing that I hear a lot as a question about filters is, what happens as these lists change? Your data is dynamic. So this chemical search that we're looking at here, for example, Justin just picked this search from the filters list. And it's automatically rerunning the search that he ran when he saved this filter. So if I had new accounts that were chemicals, or if some of my accounts have been updated and weren't in this chemicals category anymore, they would automatically be added or removed from this list every time you pull up that filter. And I think the one other random comment I wanted to share is just to keep in mind that the mass actions from the list view are limited to 1,000 rows of data at a time. So that is another thing to keep in mind, especially around exporting as a difference between exporting from a list view versus a report.
The next thing we're going to look at is rows and columns report. These are somewhat similar to a list view filter. They let you search for records and get a nice list of the resulting query. Some of the nice things about reports are that they're able to leverage more complex filters and layouts. For example, I can use and or groups as well as runtime filters. The layouts and filters for reports can traverse module relationships, so that's where I can find all of my accounts in a specific industry that are related to an opportunity that's open. And then the fields on the layout can be renamed, and once I've customized that layout and I export my report, it's going to export just the records and columns I had specified in my report. Also, reports can be viewable by any user based on team security. So if I create a report that's going to show all opportunities, and another user who can only see some of the opportunities runs that report, they're only going to see some of the opportunities that they have access to. Reports can also be exported to a PDF or scheduled to email in a PDF format. And of course, reports can be copied into the same or a different type, which is really useful. If you have a report that's kind of what you want but not quite, you can copy that report, start from that base, and then build a new report based on an older one. So let's take a look at how that can work. All right, I'm going to come to my reports module here. And I'm going to take a look at an opportunity report for a selected account industry here. This is my rows and columns type report. This report is actually showing us all opportunities that are related to this industry, my selected industry, that are currently open or that have been closed within the last 7 days. So I'm using the complex filters to say and or criteria, which we'll look at in just a second. You'll also notice I've selected the columns I want to see, and they're renamed to be extremely clear what they are. Account name. This is the account assigned to, the opportunity assigned to. Email address, and then I put opportunity likely amount, expected close date, opportunity probability percent of closing, just to be extremely clear what it is. Another nice thing reports have is the runtime filters. As I change this, I can jump to different industries. And it's going to remember what my last selection was a per user basis. So if I create one report with a bunch of runtime filters and everyone's using it, they can all have different filters set up in the runtime filters, and it's going to remember what they were doing the last time they ran the report. Take a quick look at editing this. Here's my filters. The first filter is two groups that are ANDed together. Opportunity account industry is chemicals, and that's a runtime filters. And then I wanted to see all records where the sales stage is not closed won or closed lost, or I want to see all records where the sales stage is closed won or closed lost, and the expected close date, or when it was closed, was within the last 7 days. So now I'm seeing an industry's opportunities that are open, as well as ones that were recently closed. So this could be a good report to review during a weekly sales opportunity review meeting. You'll also notice here I have these different fields in my layout, and I've given them custom names, chosen my sort order. And in report details, you can set which teams have access to this report. Currently it's global, so everyone can access this. But again, it's only going to show them records they should have access to. So I can save and run that. It's going to show me those same records. Let's go ahead and take a look at the exporting to a CSV file. You can see here it only pulled out the columns that were in my report, as well as kept the names I had used to be more descriptive. And of course I could export that to a PDF as well, or schedule that to email to myself on a regular basis.
And one other thing to keep in mind with reports in terms of a difference between the reports versus list views is the ability to filter on and show data from multiple modules in one view. So Justin did this in his report but didn't necessarily point it out. He had that filter for the account industry even though his report was about opportunities, and he was showing the account industry and the account name and things like that in his report as well. And that's going to be true for any of these types of reports that we're going to look at. Two of the other types of reports that we can do within Sugar are summation and summation with details reports. Hopefully the name kind of tells you a little bit about what these reports are going to do for you. First of all, they're going to help you summarize your data. And they're going to help you visualize that data with a chart of some sort. So a bar chart, a pie chart, a funnel chart, a line chart, to help you really be able to see what's going on with your data. The main difference between these is the level of detail that's visible in that report. So the summation report is more of a high-level analysis of your data. It's great for summarizing large groups of data or for generating a quick chart to put on a dashboard, while the summation with details report is going to give you access to more information, more data, so that you can better understand the details and kind of dig down deeper within what's happening with your data. The summation with details report does happen to be my favorite type of report, so when I use the most, because it's generally kind of the best of both worlds. You have the visual capability of charting and seeing your data, but also being able to see some of the details about that information. The only downside to the summation with details report is you can't export it into an Excel file, so that's the situation where I might pick a different report type. So I'm going to switch back to Sugar here, and I'm going to pull up a couple of different examples of reports. So I'm going to go ahead and open those all first. We're going to start with some of those summation reports, so more high level. I want to show off a couple of different capabilities here. So first of all, you can see what's happening here is we are grouping our data into different categories. In this case, we're grouping by user. And so I can immediately visualize and compare the different users in whatever this category happens to be, average deal size as the case might be. Here's another example. And what's different in this report is I've chosen to group by two categories here. So I still have my user comparison happening with each bar representing a different user and their data. But you can see I have different color categories within each bar, within each user, where I can also drill down a little bit deeper and look at the different stages that their opportunities are in. So this report is letting me compare the sales funnels for each of my users and see how much money do they have at each different stage in the process. And here's another example with a different bar chart on it, so going the other direction. Again, you can also do funnel charts and line charts and pie charts. I just personally like bar charts the most often. And so this one is a good example of when you might not care about the details of the data. This is a report on Sugar's tracker data, which if you don't know much about that is something you can turn on from your admin settings to keep track of how your users are using the system. And so what this report is showing me is that the admin user is the most active user in my system, and they've principally been working on reports, it looks like, and that Chris is the next most active user in the system, and this is a demo system, so it makes sense that there's really only been 2 people who are active here. In this case, I don't need to know the details of every single time Chris logged in and what account records he looked at and when he looked at them and what did he do with them. That data is technically available to me in the tracker tables, but I wouldn't want to view all of that information in a report like this. And so this is a good scenario where that high-level analysis is more useful to me than all the details. If we were to take a look at, let's do this one of these in the report wizard, we're going to see the steps look a little bit different than the rows and columns report that Justin was just showing you a few minutes ago. So we're still going to be able to do filters in our report, and we'll have the same capabilities there in terms of doing some of the more complex logic like Justin had in his report. Mine's a little bit simpler. But we're going to have a couple of steps we didn't see before with the rows and columns report, which is how we generate the chart. So one of those steps is going to be defining our groups for our report. How do we want to group that data into categories? In this case, I'm grouping first by username and then by sales stage, and that matches the chart we were looking at where we had a bar for each user, and then that bar was broken down by sales stage. So the order here actually does matter. If I were to drag these to the opposite order, that would change my report where I would have a bar for each sales stage, and then that would be broken down within each sales stage by user. And I guess we can go ahead and do that, and we can look at that result. We also need to choose a display summary for our report. What that means is how should Sugar summarize each of these categories into a number to represent on a chart. So a lot of times this is going to be doing some sort of math with your data. Very popular to use with an opportunity report to do a summary of the dollar figure field, whatever you've named that within your Sugar. By default, it's called likely, so that's what I have it named here. But you can also do an average value, a maximum value, or a minimum value. So some average, maximum, or minimum are the mathematical operations you can do on any numeric field. And then you also always have the option to just do a count. If I was doing a report on leads, for example, I might count how many leads did I get from different lead sources, or how many leads does each person have that they're working on right now, or something like that. And then, of course, I have to pick which type of chart I want. So again, you can see the list of different options here. And if we go ahead and save and run this, we'll see how this report has changed with switching the order of those group bys. I now have each sales stage as a column, and then broken down by user within that. Now, if we compare that to a summation with details report, the top of the report is going to look the same. Where things start to look different is when I scroll down. So I didn't actually necessarily show you this in the other reports, but if I scroll down here, the only other information I have is a table showing me the counts or the values that are shown in the chart, so not really very useful to me. Versus in my summation with details report, when I scroll down, I have a view that's much more like the rows and columns report that Justin showed you first. And in this case, I was able to select in my report wizard which columns to include, so what data do I care about. Again, that could come from multiple modules. I could pull in account fields into my opportunities report, for example. And this lets me really dig down deeper and understand what's happening with my data. It also gives me the ability, if I've used the name field in my report, to be able to just click and open any of these records. So I can go update something if I need to, or even get more information besides what I've selected to show as my column. And just one more example, just to show you, again, some flexibility. Here's a funnel chart. And again, if I scroll down, I'm going to see additional details here. This is a report that you might use as well for a sales meeting like the one Justin had earlier, where you're looking at a list of all of your opportunities. This just gives you the ability to have that visualization as well. All right, there's actually one more type of report available in Sugar, but it is sadly underutilized. Most people have never seen it or used it, including apparently Justin. I was very sad to learn. And that's called a matrix report. A matrix report lets you compare data across two categories, looking kind of like a pivot table in Excel. So you can see I've got a screenshot here, and I'm going to go open a couple of these up in Sugar to show you a little bit more about that.
I like that you clarified that it's sadly underutilized.
It is very sadly underutilized. And I'm not entirely sure why that is, other than maybe the fact that none of Sugar's default reports are matrix reports, and so people just don't realize it's out there, or they don't know how to get started with it because they've never seen it before.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Okay, so let me pick my favorite one here. This is a good one. So you can see what we're doing with a matrix report is we've got a couple of different categories that we're summarizing by. And so in some ways it's pretty similar to a summation report. When we go look at the report wizard in a minute, we're going to see it's actually on the back end the same. It's just generating a different view of that data for me. And so what this is going to show is, I can compare, for example, of all of the opportunities in the prospecting stage, how many of them fall in this existing business category versus the new business categories. And I can also do comparisons of the grand totals for any of these categories as well. Here's another one. This one is comparing how much does each user have in each sales stage. So again, it's looking at that pipeline. It's just breaking it down for me in a different way. I find that the summation report we had before is better if I'm looking for kind of overall comparing one user to another, how much do they have in their pipeline. But if I'm trying to get to the level of how much does Chris have in the prospecting stage versus how much does Jim have in the prospecting stage, this is going to make that a little bit easier for me to find versus having all of those bars kind of all stacked together on that previous view. So if we do go ahead and look at the report wizard on this, again, the steps are actually exactly the same. I'm still going to have my group bys, my display summaries, and my chart options. The matrix report does require you to have 2 or possibly 3 group bys. 3 is possible, but they usually don't look very pretty because you start to have too many subcategories happening, so I haven't really seen them used much in practice. The display summary, again, is how is it generating a number to put in that box. Same options here as we talked about before, so you can do the sum, maximum, minimum, or average of any numeric field, or you can do a count. And it is possible to have a chart in your matrix report as well. I personally don't like to have them there because I think it just becomes too much to look at. The chart appears above the pivot table when you're viewing the report. And so I really find myself just looking at the chart instead and not looking at the matrix report. But I also recognize it's probably more of a personal preference than a best practice. So, do with that as you will. And one other thing I will point out is, again, the order of the group bys does matter. The first group by is going to go on the side of your chart, and the second group by is going to go across the top of your chart. All right, and Justin kind of stole my thunder on this slide a little bit earlier in his part of the presentation, but a couple of other things that you can do with any report, no matter which type of report it is. One is those runtime filters that Justin was showing you. This is a great way to add flexibility to your reports because you can have one report that users modify those runtime filters on to get different views of the data that are most important to them. Instead of having to create 10 or 15 or 20 different very similar reports for them, you can have one report that works for all of them. Runtime filters, though, don't play very well with dashboards or with scheduled reports because dashboards and scheduled reports are always going to use the default value you selected in the report wizard for those filters. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, how you're going to use this report is going to make a difference in terms of how you want to use the runtime filters or not. And Justin pointed out the schedule option in that report menu when you're viewing a report. You can schedule a report to be sent to yourself at a designated interval, so something like daily, weekly, every 4 weeks, something like that. When you do that, it will send it to you as a PDF attachment to the email. And it's a great way to just remind yourself to look at a report. I personally have 1 or 2 reports out of our Sugar scheduled to be emailed to me because otherwise I forget to go pull them. And this way it shows up in my inbox and it makes it a to-do item for me to look at that report and keep an eye on it. Right now, a user has to schedule a report for themselves. So if my boss wants to get a report, I have to walk him through the process of scheduling that report in Sugar for himself because I can't just do it for him. That is something that is on Sugar's roadmap currently for Q3 of this year, although that could always change. But they're going to introduce the ability to schedule reports for teams of users. So using the Teams function in Sugar to allow you to schedule a report for somebody else, whether that's one person using a private team or a group of people. That is something that's coming soon. And by the way, reports is something that Sugar is putting a lot of energy and attention into right now. So there are a lot of other reporting features on the roadmap for future, including things like the ability to do historic snapshots, to be able to compare your opportunity pipeline today versus a month ago, as well as redesigning the report wizard. So the report wizard in Sugar has not been updated since Sugar introduced their new user interface 4 years ago maybe now. And so that's something that they know they need to tackle at some point. They've started outlining some ideas, but that's something that's certainly coming in the future.
The next item on our list is building a home page. And we're going to look specifically at using the filters and reports we just created to add dashlets to our home screen. So let's list view dashlets will embed a filtered list from any module on your home page using the filter you've created from that module. And saved report chart dashlets will embed any chart you've created in the report wizard onto your home screen. And you can also now drill down into those charts as they appear on your home screen. So let's take a look at that. Here we are on our home screen. You can see here I do have a chart report here of my pipeline. Of course, these are interactive. I can get rid of items. And as I mentioned, I can click on any of these items to drill into it. So here we're looking at the prospecting stage, and I could mass update these, or do inline editing, or preview to see information about them. I can also switch what I'm currently drilled into by clicking on the item over here. And then we see a couple of list view dashlets here, my leads and my opportunities. So let's take a look at adding those to our dashboard. First, we want to go up to the upper right corner here in the Create drop-down, and we'll select the Edit option. Scrolling back down to the bottom of my screen now, I have an option to add a row to my dashboard. So if I want a wider one, I could do one column here, or I could do two columns. Go ahead and just add a one column row down here. That then adds the row, and I can then add a sugar dashlet. And here I want to be able to see a list view, so I'll click on that and find within my list of available dashboards the list view dashlet. We're currently already on accounts. I can choose any one of my filters, like that one I just created, my team's account records. So then I could change the name up here. Choose how many display rows I want. And I can choose if I want to auto-refresh this. If for some reason I leave my dashboard up on my desktop and want it to auto-refresh every 5 minutes as users are in the system. This could be useful if you're monitoring open cases or open leads and you want to see them as they come in, or open phone calls to see how many calls your users are making. Let's go ahead and just click Save on that. So now we have that filter added to my home screen. Over here I want to add a new saved report chart dashlet, so I'll click the Add a Row, then click Add a Sugar dashlet. And from the list of available dashlets here, I'm going to click Saved Reports Chart Dashlet. And I'll go ahead and use one of the ones we saw earlier, average deal size by user. And I have a bunch of options to modify how this chart could look. I could change the chart type if I wanted to. I could choose whether or not I want to show totals. I could display a label on the X and Y axis showing the legend. And where do you want to place the value on your bar chart? Go ahead and save that. So now you can see here I have my saved report chart dashlet, and I want to go up here and of course click Save on my home screen in the upper right corner so I don't lose this as I click away. And now with my new functionality in Sugar, I can click on any one of these rows in my new graph and drill into it.
So the homepage dashboard is the one most people pay the most attention to and are most aware of, in part because you see it every time you log in as your first home screen. But you also have dashboards on your list and record views for all of your sidecar modules, which is most of them at this point. And building a dashboard for a list or a record view is really the same as building it for the homepage. By and large, the options are pretty much the same. It is important to keep in mind that you have a different dashboard for every module. So your list view dashboard for accounts is different from your list view dashboard for opportunities. You might choose to put the same thing on both of them, or you might choose to put different things on both of them, but they are different dashboards. A couple of things that I most commonly see people do on their list view dashboards are things like a recently viewed records list, a list of favorite records, or a pipeline or other KPI measure that you're trying to keep an eye on that you just want to have up anywhere in the system. On a record view dashboard, this is a great tool for highlighting key related records using list views or using charts. So again, let's go take a look at this in Sugar. I'm going to go to my accounts module. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you see my dashboard here. So what I've chosen to highlight on my dashboard are my key accounts, aka my favorites, and the recently viewed accounts, so I can go back in time and look at the ones that I've gone to most recently. Again, you can choose to keep key metrics over here as well, so that Saved Reports chart dashlet that Justin showed you on the homepage works here as well as the homepage. If I click into an account, again, there's lots of different things I can do with my dashboard. This is one of those places where users can really customize it to match what they're looking for out of the system. So I've got a couple of different dashboards that I've set up here, which also, by the way, is something you can do with dashboards on your homepage or elsewhere. You can have multiple dashboards that you switch between. So depending on what my position is, I might want a case-focused dashboard. Maybe I want to just quickly highlight any open cases that a customer is having so that when I pull them up, I know right away if they're having any problems. And so that might be something like using Sugar's case summary dashboard, as well as maybe just a list of all of the open cases they have right now. Or maybe I'm more focused on opportunities. So maybe what I want to see instead is their opportunity metrics. What is a quick visualization of the opportunities that they have going on? And what are the opportunities we have that are greater than a certain probability, or opportunities that we've won? Again, this lets me really focus and highlight the data that's most important to me. These list views pull data out of my subpanels, but let me highlight the things that I care about the most. And of course, I don't have to focus on one thing or another. So here's a dashboard where I've blended together a couple of different things. Maybe I pull out just my favorite contacts first at the top of the screen so I can focus on them. And then maybe I've got a list of all of the account contacts below that because I hate having to scroll down to find who the contacts are and get someone's phone number. And then maybe I've got some of those charts a little bit lower down to highlight some of that data. When you set up a list view on a record dashboard, there is an extra setting that's really important, which is relate to current record. So what that setting is doing for me is it's only showing me contacts from this account that I'm viewing. It was only showing me opportunities from that account or cases in some of my other dashboards. And so this lets you still use the filter capability to generate a specific category of data as needed, but also focus in on the account that you're looking at and just, again, highlight key data from that account so that you don't have to do as much scrolling to focus on what you need. And one other thing I just wanted to point out is you can also select which columns to display. So especially on some of these right-hand panel dashboards where you don't have as much space as you might have on your homepage, that can be really important as well as focusing in on just the details that you care about the most in that particular view, rather than having, the account name shown here again when I already know I'm looking at SugarCRM account, or, whose contact is it? Well, I don't care as much about that as I care about how to get a hold of somebody. All right, and then one last thing related to dashboards before we wrap up this topic is the ability to share dashboards. This is a relatively new feature within Sugar. This was introduced in version 7.10, which was the fall release of Sugar back in October. And it's only available if you have Sugar Enterprise or higher. What sharing dashboards allows you to do is, I guess exactly what it sounds like, is you can share a dashboard to other users. So instead of each person having to set up their own dashboard, you can push a dashboard out to people. Technically, any user can share dashboards, but there is a pretty significant difference doing it as an administrator versus as a normal user. An administrator can set the dashboard as being visible to the user by default, whereas if a normal user shares a dashboard, the person would have to go hunting for it and turn it on. So if Justin just shared a dashboard with me as a normal user, he'd have to tell me he shared it to me and I'd have to go seek it out, versus if the administrator sets it up and shares it, it would automatically be in my dashboard list. There is also a pretty significant limitation that you want to be aware of if you are setting up dashboards to share them with people, and that is related to list view dashlets. List view dashlets use filters pretty heavily, obviously, but because you cannot currently share a filter with users, if you have a custom filter on your list view dashlet and you share it, the filter can't go with it. It can't be shared. And so if you share a list view dashlet that has a custom filter on it, it's not going to share correctly. It's going to end up defaulting back to just all records in that particular module. That is something that Sugar has on their roadmap to fix. I don't have an estimated date on that one yet, but I do know that's something that they're working on. And one workaround that I've found working with people on this is with the drill through, you don't necessarily need to show a list in order to get a list of data. You can have a chart and that you drill through to the list to get the view that you want. So, you know, maybe not quite as ideal as having the list view filter, but still an important option. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch users here and log in as the administrator. And I'm going to just quickly set up a new dashboard. I'm not going to necessarily talk through everything that I'm doing here because I just want to set up something so that I can share it. I'll just put a couple of things on here so that we know it worked. Let's put a report on here, like maybe my team pipeline. And let's put a list of opportunities on here. And I'm just going to use one of these pre-built filters like the All Opportunities filter. Maybe I will adjust some of these columns or something though. Oh, and let's make that a longer list than just 5. And then let's do something that's not going to work. So let's also put a list view on here that is a custom filter like closed won opportunities. All right, so I'm going to save this dashboard. And in order to share it, I'm going to go into the Manage Dashboards view. This is going to bring up a list of all of the dashboards. Now, since I'm the administrator, I'm going to see all of everyone's dashboards in this list. If I was a normal user sharing a dashboard, I guess that is one nice thing about doing it as a normal user is I just have my own. The favorites icon here tells me that this is a dashboard that I actually have visible right now, so that's a quick way I could narrow it down if I'm looking at these trying to figure out which one is the one that I wanted to share. The favorites tells me that it's one that I'm viewing at the moment that's in my dashboard list here. And I'm going to simply find the dashboard that I want to share and click on that. And then I'm going to add people through the Teams function in order to share the dashboard with them. So just like I can share records with users through Teams, it works the same way. I can share this with a team that I've created that's a custom team with a group of people on it, or I can use private teams to share it with just 1 or 2 people. I could share it to the global team if I want to push it out to everybody. The field that is limited to only administrators is this default dashboard field. Checking that box essentially makes it a favorite for that user, meaning, again, it's going to show up in that user's list of dashboards automatically, as opposed to them having to go into Manage Dashboards to find it and favorite it. So let's go ahead and save this. And let's switch back to Chris, now that we've shared it with him. And notice Chris still went back to his dashboard. The terminology here is a little bit confusing, I think. The default dashboard doesn't mean it's the first dashboard the user necessarily sees when they log in. That is a last viewed setting, so whatever the user looked at last, that's the dashboard that's going to come up. The default setting, again, means that it is automatically added to my list of dashboards here. And so I can find the Megan dashboard now, and I can go take a look at that. We can see the chart came through, and the all opportunities works just as expected. It's all the opportunities. But again, the one opportunities, because I created a custom filter for that list view, does not actually come through as a list of one opportunities. It's still actually just a list of all the opportunities because it doesn't currently share those list view filters. A user who has a dashboard shared with them cannot edit it. So Chris cannot come in here and change any of these widgets or set this back to a custom filter he creates for one opportunities. You can, however, copy a dashboard. So if someone shares a dashboard with me and it's kind of what I want, but I want to take my own variation of it, I can duplicate it and create my own version of it.
Thank you, Megan. Looking at new releases, we had the Winter 2018 or 7.11 release, which included the modernized user interface you saw during our demonstrations today, as well as the actionable drill-through charts where I could select a bunch of the opportunities I was looking at when I clicked on my chart and mass update them or edit them inline. And then there was also a product catalog dashlet that was added to the quoting module so you can easily add lots of products to your quotes.
We did a deeper dive on that version in our last user group, so if you're looking for more information about those, the recording of that user group would be a good place to start.
Sugar also released a patch on 7.11, which fixed an issue when working with emails that are related to a case. There were a couple of mobile releases. One of the big ones is that now you can see the emails module in mobile. And then there was a bug fix for the iPad. Mobile SDK was released. And there were also releases of the Outlook plugin and the IBM Notes plugin, which included some bug fixes, as well as for IBM Lotus Notes, included compatibility with the Sugar 2018. Hint 3.0 was released, which now includes data for accounts, in addition to the existing data for leads and contacts. And then the Customer Journey plugin had an upgrade to add compatibility with the Fall 17 and Winter 18 releases. They now support Oracle databases, the ability to cancel journeys, enhanced time stamping, and new options for start and due date. And we see a lot of releases every month in our user groups, and I think that's important that they're releasing bug fixes as well as new features for all of their different products quite regularly. It's been very pleasant to see all the work they've been doing with all of the products they have.
All right, I'm going to talk about this first item we have on our upcoming events page. Those of you who joined us for any of our previous SugarCRM workshops know that we have a lot of fun, we learn a lot, and we eat some good food usually. So this year you might be thinking, well, didn't you just have one in autumn? That is correct, we did. However, as you will see, SugarCon this year is in October, and we don't really want to overlap too much with that. So we moved ours to spring, and we're mixing it up a little bit. We're keeping a lot of the features of Sorry guys, I don't know what happened there. The phone just cut out, so apologies. I'm not sure what you heard, so I'll just start where I think I was. I was talking about being able to schedule one-on-one meetings the day before the workshop in our offices on May 15th to talk about really whatever you would like to talk about in regards to your CRM instance, whether that be customizations, technical issues you're having, integrations you might be interested in, whatever. We're here and we'd love to meet with you. Then the workshop itself will be on May 16th. Again, so normally those of you who have been with us at previous workshops know that we tend to have the workshop at the Park Ridge Country Club. Part of what we're mixing up this year is that we're going to have it at our offices, and it'll be a little bit more intimate that way as well. So all three things will be in the same location. We're really easy to get to. This is a super easy sell, hopefully, for your boss. It's free. You're learning a lot about the product. You're eating food. And, and we're literally located directly behind the airport. You can see our office from the airport. So if you have to fly in, it's real easy to get to us. And we have deals with hotels right around the area that we can give you discounted rates. So anyway, May 16th is going to be the workshop in the office. We're going to be covering topics like GDPR, account-based marketing, using analytics in your CRM, and then trying to cover usually what we always try to do, which is hit a little bit on what's important to everybody. So some sales-related stuff, some marketing-related stuff, some service-related stuff, and tie that all together for you and answer any questions that you might have. And then the third day will be May 17th. That's a Thursday, and that's going to be the training day. Again, that will be taking place in our offices. And Megan and Justin, our certified SugarCRM trainers, will be here to guide you through some important SugarCRM training. Now, if you're looking to sign up for this, you're not going to find anything because we do not have the registration page out yet. We're just waiting for a little bit of last-minute information to make sure that everything's in line. But please keep an eye out for that. It will be coming soon. You should have received a save the date. If you do not see it come into your inbox, please check your junk or your spam. Depending on your filters, it's very possible it could have gotten lost. Even people in our own company sometimes have our emails go into some weird folder that they end up finding at later dates. So please make sure that marketing at techadv.com is in your address book. And if you don't see an invitation for registration in a couple of weeks, definitely keep checking that folder to make sure you didn't miss it, because we'd really love to have you here and to have a really fun workshop like we always do.
The next item on our list is, of course, SugarCon. It'll be the first time it's hosted in Las Vegas. It is Wednesday and Thursday, October 10th and 11th. SugarCon is always a lot of fun, and it's always very educational, and they've been making it better every year. And I'm hoping this year in Las Vegas it'll be a little more affordable and easier to get to than New York or San Francisco, and we'll have a lot more people there. So save the date and plan to travel out there.
And then finally, we've listed a few of our upcoming training classes here. You can sign up for these through our website or through Sugar University. If you're looking for a bit more comprehensive, in-depth training on administering sugar or using sugar, these are some great classes to check out.
Everything's fine.
And then finally, we are not yet announcing the date of our next user group, but we know it will be sometime in the April to May timeframe. And the reason for that is we want to talk about what Sugar is doing for GDPR, but we need to find out a little bit more information from them on exactly when that's going to be out. So once we have a release date from Sugar on when to expect version 8.0, which includes the GDPR features, we'll get a date for the user group announced and get that news out to you.
All right, we'll leave another second or two here for any closing questions or comments. But in general, I would like to thank Megan and Justin. They are always wonderful to have as presenters. I hope that you guys took away some valuable information today about your dashboards and reports. I know I did. All right, well, I think we are going to wrap things up then. As usual, you can expect a follow-up email from me within the next day or two detailing this recording, and we hope that we'll see you in May. Have a great afternoon, everyone.